We welcome Sarah Schlecht down in Charleston, South Carolina. Sarah and I got a good relationship. She's helped some clients of mine. Always had a great experience. We belong to that same network of real estate agents that I've been talking about. And, what's nice about the network, you can say a little bit too, Sarah, is you can always count on your clients getting great service, right?
For sure. No, we all, you could say, beat to the same drum in terms of the way we go about business, which is refreshing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it gives you peace of mind that you're passing your client on to somebody that's going to treat them the way we treat our clients, which is, not an industry norm, unfortunately.
Yes, for sure.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Sarah. I want you to just real quick, where you are specifically. The way we're doing this is we want you to be kind of the conduit for South Carolina. I know you serve Charleston, and a lot of our buyers, our folks are interested in Charleston specifically. But a little bit where you serve, and then just maybe how you get into real estate.
Sure. So I think we think a lot of Charleston, right? But I serve the greater Charleston area. So when you think of the Charleston market, it's really 3 counties: Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester. So I'll just name like a few highlight cities that you might have heard of, so like Mount Pleasant, James Island, Johns Island, Isle of Palms, Sullivan's. That greater Charleston metro area is where I serve. In regards to how I got into real estate, my career started back in 2016. It's kind of really a combination of things. So as a child, my dad was really into real estate. And I know this is going to be hard to believe, but I moved 15 times growing up. So he was always buying and selling. And then also I was the oldest, and with like family vacations or whatnot, my dad and I would drive down to Florida and basically real estate hunt before my greater family arrived. So it's always kind of been a part of who I am. Graduated college with a finance degree, did the corporate thing until I realized that I was spending 12 hours plus a day in corporate America, and why not invest that in my own business? So jumped into real estate.
Yeah, that's great. And I know you and I have some synergy. We're both very analytical. I think that's like a lot of my people I've helped. They do appreciate that analytical side to things. I know when you helped Andy and Kim, that was a big thing for him, I know. So I think you having that analytical background is really helpful, especially for people that are coming from Massachusetts and they're coming to a completely different market where they don't know, right? So the data always kind of leads us in the right direction, right?
For sure. And, I know you and I talked about it a little bit, but there is so much information just as like overall resource, right, that we can help each other out with. I know probably from coming down to the greater South Carolina, everyone's big questions are, understanding more about our flood zones, understanding insurance costs, understanding how property taxes work versus other states. So just knowing that we can kind of be that resource to help just bridge questions to understand, if the state of South Carolina is a good match.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, you mentioned Charleston. I think that was good information, how it is broken up into those pockets, right? I think you serve pretty much all of those, but maybe just a little bit about specific areas you are and how's that market? Maybe just a little bit of data.
Sure. So overall, when I speak of Charleston, I'm going to speak about the 3 counties. So the greater Charleston area is bringing approximately, which is kind of crazy, but 40 people incoming per day. So those are current stats from our census relatively. Yeah, but that's
just Charleston, not South Carolina.
That's just the greater Charleston area.
Yeah,
yes.
That's a big number.
Yeah. And so if you were to blow it up and look at big South Carolina, which we do have some great other cities in South Carolina. So you have Greenville, that's going to be closer up, more of a mountainous area where, obviously Charleston, more coastal, excuse me. But let's think here. So one nice thing about the greater Charleston area is that, we were talking about the different pockets. So there's really something for everyone. I'll have someone call that's coming from out of state and they're like, Sarah, I really want, to focus on something, and they'll give me like X, Y, and Z, let's just say.
Yeah.
And, I can kind of guide them to really evaluate and do their own research on, let's say it be James Island or like Folly Beach, or, if being walking distance to beaches and in a certain price range is more attractive, then I can direct them more to like Mount Pleasant, or, so there's just all these little niches within the greater Charleston area. And they're all so different that I feel very confident that everyone can find like their home or their place within the greater Charleston area, which is really nice. But another fun fact in just overall growth from South Carolina standpoint is, and this is kind of crazy, but over the next 20 years, they are estimating 1 million new people coming to South Carolina, which is crazy. That's like approximately like a 19% increase in overall population.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that,
So definitely a place that we're seeing people come to, for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about, you can talk about Charleston specifically, but South Carolina, why are people moving there?
Yeah. And I'll be curious too on your thoughts, Paul, just because I know you talk to a lot of people that are coming down here. But if I were to summarize it in 3 different like bullets, if you may, I would think that it would be the weather, the people, and maybe the way of life. I mean, weather being, I can walk the beach in November and February and it be quite pleasant. All you Northeast people coming down, you can just choose one of your winter coats versus 10. The people, I think Southern hospitality. I mean, I do think it rings true down here. Yeah. We hold the door open for people. You see someone with their shopping cart, you take it back for them. It's a pleasant experience. And, we kind of invite people that come in from out of state to jump on in. And I would say, like the way of life, it is a little slower probably than being up in the Northeast, but slower in a good way. Even now, it just like with technology and everything, I feel like we're always spinning so quickly. And so if there's ever that opportunity that we can kind of like turn down the dial just a little bit, I feel like that's what the South incorporates. And it's kind of refreshing, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. We are wound up tight up here, I'll tell you. And if anybody who, accuses us of that, come spend a winter here and you'll find out why that is.
I'm sure. You just need to come down to the South or come down to Charleston for the winter.
Exactly. Yeah, but no, like you said, it's true that Southern hospitality, it's real. Like you get on there, it's a little different interaction. Florida, we do a lot in Florida too. Florida's the same way. It's in terms of a little slower paced. I think we're used to up here. It's very quick. But I think it's something to get used to. I do think that's part of the draw too, by the way. You asked, why I feel people are going down there. I think that is part of it. I think it's, warm weather is clearly the number one thing. You got some people with second homes. We do have some high net worth clients, they're looking for another piece of property. I think that's a driver down there too. And not everybody wants to go to Florida. I think with South Carolina, I know with Andy and Kim, they're on a plane, they're landing, they're in their place in such a short period of time. It's like that, I think, is the biggest draw to Charleston specifically, is just the location and the door-to-door aspect from Boston.
For sure. And I think you mentioned a great point, is that I think some people sometimes think of Charleston, as being a smaller big city, but we do have, a great, international airport. And I believe we actually have direct flights to and from Boston.
We do.
Correct?
Yes, absolutely.
So.
Yeah. And I know, like I said, Andy and Cam, that was a big draw for them. These are, I don't want to get too much into them, but these are people that have two, they both run their own businesses, so having that has been great for them. It's been a game changer, really. They're spending more time down there. I think that's naturally what happens.
Yeah. I'm glad to see it.
Yeah. This goes back to, getting the right real estate agent. You have all this knowledge. I mean, there's no way you can be up in Boston and gather all the information you have. And you start with the goals. Like you said, the nice thing with Charleston, the reason I love it down there, and I think a lot, actually, we talk about another draw to Charleston from the Northeast and Boston. We have tremendous history up here. Our architecture, everything is just, it's really beautiful. And Charleston has that, right? So I think that's kind of the draw for Boston people. You go down the East Coast, once you get past Charleston, Savannah's got a little bit of that, I think. But it has that character, which I think we love. I always say we have a community here in New Hampshire, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Charleston kind of has that vibe. It's got that character. It's got, beautiful architecture. I think that is a draw for people.
And it is great because it has, the history, the architecture, it has the beaches, we're so well known for our restaurants. And then you go out a little farther and you have horse farms and you have where you can go berry picking just 30 minutes away. We also have different military pods here. We have medical universities here, colleges here. So one other fun tidbit of information is, and I think this will be slightly different maybe towards a Florida comparison, but our average population age-wise in the greater Charleston area is 40. So we have a relatively youthful vibe, if you may. Yeah. Which is, we have just a nice balance.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. That was actually really interesting to see that. We're looking at all these different states based on our clients. I think I told you we sent basically a survey out and asked them what communities or what areas of the country are you interested in, because people are leaving Massachusetts. We're not getting into why that's happening. But we're just more focusing on where they're going. What are you interested in? And South Carolina was right there at the top. I think there is a lot of people are inquisitive. I think that Florida is great, but in the summer it's a different animal.
Yeah, so, it's hot. I mean, it's hot here too, but
no, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It's humid, right? It's very humid. I remember that's what I took out of it, but it's bearable. Yeah, I think another thing we talk about coming from Boston down there is, you mentioned it, we've talked about this, is being on the water. Like you had said to me, there's so many ways to be on the water. I think that's very attractive for us, right? My family, we can walk down near the water, or on kayaks, we boat. That's a big deal. Take the ferry into Boston, we're water people, we grew up here. So I think that's the beauty of Charleston too, is it's got all that, plus some intercoastal, some different experiences that we don't have.
For sure. I mean, I think, it touches on everything you said. I'll just sprinkle in, you have the sailing, you have where you can get up, really in all of our low-lying areas, further in the tidal creeks, which is nice. And, for being such a big city, it is surrounded by so much lush green beauty, which is really, beautiful in its own sense.
Yep. No, definitely.
Yeah.
How about maybe one or two things that people don't generally think of or are not aware of, or that you found as some hidden gems of living there?
Yeah. Let's think here. So, I mean, I know I hit on a few of them earlier, but I think the big thing is, people probably think a lot of Charleston as this town, and think of business, but it's so much more. We talked about, I can go berry picking in 30 minutes. It's a really close commute if I wanted to take day trips to downtown Georgetown or downtown Beaufort or Hilton Head. It has the accessibility with such a big airport, which is nice. Great, nationally renowned hospitals. So, for being a bigger city, and I say bigger city, and then I get embarrassed because I'm it probably has, I don't know what your population is in Boston, but probably nothing compared to you.
Yeah, your whole metro area is what, around 1 million?
Yeah, right under 1 million. Yeah. So
that's pretty good size for East Coast.
Yes, but I would say that's, is all the offerings between the water, the beaches, the farming around, it does feel like a very small town for being such a bigger city, if you may.
Yeah, you had mentioned that. That was good insight.
Yeah.
I think it is. because you have those different areas, right? So it's not like
Mhm.
all congested. It's spread out.
Yeah.
And they are
And
a little different. Anybody who hasn't spent time down there, I highly recommend you go down there. You really have to go a couple of times, I think, because I know when
mhm.
we went down, we didn't want to really leave where we were, but we wanted to see so much.
Yeah, and there is so much to explore. So definitely,
Yeah,
I would do it in smaller,
yeah,
separate trips because then you can really absorb it all.
right. Exactly. And you brought up a good point, which is what I always want to make sure I reiterate on these calls is it's not like I'm going to buy in Charleston. I'm going down there this weekend. It's like you got to spend some time there, right? So this is where Sarah's great. She's open to talking with you months in advance, a year in advance. It's just being a resource for that area because it is different down there. I know when my wife Kim and I went down there, we we were down there enjoying the day. It was beautiful. All of a sudden, the skies opened up. The streets were like, flooded, but
Yeah.
within like 5 minutes, like it was amazing. Like the bartenders got behind the bars, they were squeegeeing out the water into the streets. And so I think spending some time down there and getting used to that and understanding the impact of that, I think that's important.
Yes, no, for sure. Always here to answer questions. And, kind of like you mentioned earlier, I am very analytical. So like to really write everything out, which I can streamline things to keep them short and simple if needed. But if people enjoy seeing all the details, they're all there for you, typed out and ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think again that speaks to I think that you and I we talked about this, right? Our biggest issue is talking to people earlier because we have all this information, but if you come in with a fire hose, it's hard for us to disseminate that information to you in a way you can absorb it and have that help you in your decision making process. Whereas
For
if you come months in advance, we can slowly start giving you stuff, and then when it comes time to make the decision, you've had time to process all that good information.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's good. And you've been selling for quite a bit, right? Was it
Right.
2016, I think I saw you said?
Yep. 2016. So
Perfect.
been in the game for a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. And just real quick, what do you like most about it? So if you just kind of get an idea about what it's like to work with you.
Yeah. So, we hit on some of the things, but I would say, at the end of the day, being in the service industry, i.e., real estate, like a sector of it, it's all about helping people. So, if I kind of were to divide two of my segments of business, first time home buyer or seller, like we talked about earlier, it's about like empowering someone with information and education so they can make good decisions for their sometimes largest investment. And then number two is, for that more experienced buyer or seller, whether they're coming from out of state, really giving them the tools and knowledge to make good decisions that might be newer to them, and just streamlining the process and hopefully providing, just a really seamless experience.
And again, full circle, we'll come back to where we started at the beginning. Contact Sarah. It's not like she's going to be lighting you up to help you buy a home in the next 2 weeks.
For sure. Even if it's a hotel recommendation.
Yeah.
Just
No,
reach
exactly.
out. Yeah.
Well, I think you had said it too. I think just having a conversation. What are they interested in? You can point them in an area to visit that might be a good fit for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of throwing a dart at the map and figuring out where you're going to go, what are you specifically interested in? Have a quick conversation with Sarah, and she will say, "Why don't you visit this area first?"
Yes. Why don't you take a week vacation on this, like here versus there? No, we can probably dial it in pretty quickly, understanding just like a few simple questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we talked about this, but this is what we're dealing with. People, they come to me, they call, they know we help people all over the state, all over the country. And my thing is always, have you visited? Like, we want to move to Arizona. Have you been to Arizona? No. Well, then let's start there, right?
Yes, definitely a good recommendation. And, I know that having talked to some people that have been down here from the Northeast, I would just say, embrace the Southern way of living, don't fight it. Just,
Right.
try to embrace it, because, it can be a nice little change.
Yeah. Well, this has been great. I think we touched upon a lot of the things I wanted to get to, which is number one, we said it several times, but just don't hesitate. Don't make it this big deal to talk to somebody. I think that's the big thing. Sarah, in terms of, I know you're open to talking to anyone that's thinking of South Carolina in general. But maybe just reiterate a good way to get in touch with you, and that you are obviously open to communicating with people earlier in the process.
Yeah, of course. Always open for a phone call, email, whatever, works best for you. Or I do a lot of virtual, Zoom appointments, even if it's just 10 to 15 minutes. I mean, I don't know about you, Paul, but just seeing someone's face when you're talking to them, it makes it so much more personable. So even if it's a 5-10 minute Zoom, that's good too. And in regards to, email, I can provide you my email. I have a long last name, so I know you have my email, and phone number, anything works. Just here to help, and grateful to be a part of this community with Paul's.